It was in 1607 when Captain John Smith, the founder of the colony of Virginia, first brought coffee to the New World. This event is considered the beginning of coffee's history in the United States. The history of coffee drinking in the United States cannot be complete without mentioning some noteworthy events, companies, and people alike. Some say the Boston Tea Party in 1773 triggered a move from tea to coffee in the US. But in the history of coffee in the US, one company has made its mark, not just in the US, but in more than 60 countries worldwide. Starbucks has changed how Americans take coffee. One man was behind this change, Howard Schultz. But before Starbucks took the face it has now, it was just another coffee shop, and Howard Schultz was responsible for its transformation. Who is Howard Schultz, and how did Howard do this? The early years of Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz is considered a self-made billionaire, which is quite true from his background. He is many things, including an author and an entrepreneur, and he had even dabbled into politics when he intended to run for president as an independent candidate. Born on the 19th of July 1953 in Brooklyn, New York, to Ashkenazi Jewish parents Fred and Elaine Schultz, Howard's father was a truck driver, and Howard has two siblings. Around when Howard turned 3, his parents moved from their home in Brooklyn to the Bayview housing project in Canarsie, another neighborhood in Brooklyn. Howard was a natural athlete. He was gifted both on the basketball court and on the football pitch. In 1971, he graduated from Canarsie High School. He got a scholarship to further his education at Northern Michigan University due to his involvement in sports. He graduated from the university with a Bachelor of Science degree in communication in 1975 and entered the workforce. Career path, early beginnings. After his graduation, Howard stayed back in Michigan and got a job at a ski lodge, where he worked for a year. After his time at the ski lodge, he got a job at Xerox, where he worked in sales till 1979. At Xerox, he discovered his talent in sales, and in time, this would catch the eye of Swedish kitchenware manufacturers PIA Partners. PIA Partners needed a manager of its subsidiary in the US, and in 1979, Howard was appointed as the manager of Hammarplast. When Schultz worked for Hammarplast, he was in charge of the company's operations in the United States. In 1981, he went to the Starbucks Coffee Company in Seattle, Washington, to fulfill their orders for plastic cone filters, which was his first encounter with Starbucks. First stint with Starbucks. Howard was immediately taken with Gordon Boker and Jerry Baldwin, Starbucks co-founders, because of their genuine enthusiasm for coffee. The opportunity so enthused Schultz that he quickly convinced them to hire him as retail operations and marketing director. Howard left a secure position in New York City to devote himself to the mysterious specialty coffee industry, much to his family's dismay. Even more so, he was drawn to Seattle's countercultural vibe, which he believed to be responsible for the development of the American coffee house. In addition, he had finally found a profession in which he could indulge his interests fully. While on a buying trip to Milan, Italy in 1983, Howard was introduced to how coffee was supposed to be made and served, and that would attract and keep customers. Back at the office, he set out to convince Jerry Baldwin and Gordon Boker to add espresso drinks to the menu, alongside the whole bean coffee, loose leaf teas, and a variety of spices. After a successful pilot of the cafe idea, Baldwin and Boker were interested. However, due to the high cost of espresso machines, the relative lack of expertise for maintenance and repair of the machines in the United States, and the Americans' unfamiliarity with the beverage, they decided not to deploy Schultz's idea further. He resigned from Starbucks to start his own business. Venturing beyond Starbucks, Il Giornale is born. In 1985, Howard decided to leave Starbucks and start his own coffee shop, but starting out wasn't easy. He needed $400,000 to start and manage his new coffee shop the way he wanted. To get a proper grounding on what he wanted to do, bringing espresso into the American market, he visited over 500 espresso bars in Milan. Starbucks was one of Howard's first investors, investing $150,000 into his business. Baldwin was added to the board of the company, while Boker helped out unofficially. Raising the rest of the needed capital didn't come easy. A local doctor, Ron Margolis, donated $100,000 too. He sought investments from 242 investors and was turned down by 217. Eventually, in 1986, he raised the capital for his coffee store, and it was named Il Giornale, after a Milanese newspaper of the same name. In addition to selling coffee, the shop also sold ice cream, had a limited number of seats available, and played opera music in the background. Acquiring Starbucks. 2 years in, Jerry Baldwin and Gordon Boker offered to sell Starbucks to Howard. They wanted to focus on another project of theirs, Peet's Coffee and Tea. Howard and Il Giornale acquired Starbucks from Baldwin and Boker for $3.8 million. Howard changed the name of Il Giornale to Starbucks. He ensured investors that the company would grow quickly, despite the fact that Seattle already had a multitude of coffee shops, and the rest of the country had not even shown interest in espresso drinks. In its first year of operation, the company opened 15 more stores. By 1992, Starbucks had approximately 150 locations across the globe, including in pioneering metropolises like Chicago, Los Angeles, and San Diego. The success of Starbucks' mail-order operation allowed the company to expand its reach well beyond the Pacific Northwest, and it soon relied only on word of mouth to bring in new customers. Howard's two groundbreaking initiatives stem from his conviction that a company can only succeed beyond all expectations if it returns some of its success to its employees and the community it serves. Starbucks was among the first in the retail industry to provide health insurance to all qualified full and part-time employees. Secondly, Starbucks provided its partners, workers, with a type of interest in the company's success through the distribution of stock called beanstalk. While he made an effort to keep the shop seeming like an authentic Italian cafe, he was willing to accommodate American preferences for things like seating and non-fat milk in their coffee. Some independent coffee shop owners praised Starbucks for enlightening their customers about coffee, while others saw their business suffer from the company's dominance. Many people believe that the second wave of coffee culture in the United States began in Seattle, Washington, thanks to Howard's marketing of Starbucks as a social center. Starbucks went public for the first time on the 26th of June 1992, and its common stock has been trading under the symbol SBUCKS since then. Through the IPO, the company was able to raise $271 million, which allowed them to double the number of outlets it had. Starbucks' partnership with Barnes & Noble began the following year, putting it at the forefront of a rising retail trend that saw coffee shops and bookshops increasingly merging into one location. This symbiosis reflected Howard's long-held concept of the coffee house as a sanctuary from the chaos and disarray of modern life. He had aspirations of making the Starbucks name synonymous with quality and reliability. Global coffee domination. In order to earn customers' trust, Starbucks had to make sure that each and every one of its products was of the highest possible standard. Howard turned down franchising to expand Starbucks in the mid-1990s because he wanted to maintain strict quality control. But it didn't stop him from putting the Starbucks name on more and more everything. After hearing from customers that they wanted to buy the music playing in Starbucks, the company started selling CDs in its stores in 1994. Frappuccino, a cold milk and coffee drink that would become popular in warmer climates, was developed with Schultz's blessing in 1995. In the same year, Starbucks collaborated with Dryer to create a line of coffee-flavored ice cream. With the opening of its first store in Japan in 1996, Starbucks entered the Asian market. The Japanese showed a lot of interest in using Starbucks cups, contrary to the forecast of industry professionals. Within a few years, branches might be found in Singapore, Thailand, New Zealand, Taiwan, Malaysia, Korea, Kuwait, and Lebanon. Howard stepped aside as CEO in 2000 to focus on worldwide expansion as a chief global strategist and chairman, increasing the firm to more than 3,000 stores and opening its first locations in China and Europe. The 2008 crisis. In 2008, there was a global economic crisis, and America took its worst hit since the Great Depression. A combination of mortgage issues, risky investments, and other factors resulted in the failure of banks nationwide and precipitated the largest government bailouts to date. Starbucks obviously was not immune to these economic downtimes, and during this period it had to shutter more than 900 of its locations. During this time, the company's profit also fell by 28%. At this point, Howard Schultz decided to step in and help Starbucks navigate through the difficulties and hardships. When Howard came in, he did not begin his plan to save the company by blaming the country's economic situation. Rather, he felt that the bureaucracy that came about as the company expanded was responsible for the state of things. He began his reforms with a series of drastic changes. One of the very drastic changes was the closure of 7,100 stores across the US for close to 4 hours to properly retrain staff on how to make espresso. He also did something inspiring as he opened up the opportunity for consumers and employees to submit ideas on improving the company's services. This led to the My Starbucks Idea campaign. He also looked at advertising. His move for advertising was Starbucks' first major national advertising campaign, and they employed BBDO for that purpose. An unregulated bank? Another major change was the appointment of a chief technology officer. Chris Bruzzo was brought on board from Amazon. Bruzzo was instrumental in the upgrading of the company's website and overall improvement of the company's social media presence. Bruzzo was instrumental in the launching of the Starbucks loyalty card. As Starbucks was inclining more towards digital trends, this led to the development of their own app. Over the years, as clients became more invested in the app, the regular customers began to deposit money in their account. This allowed them to make purchases without cash. This eventually grew until by 2019, Starbucks app users held a total amount of $1.5 billion collectively in their Starbucks accounts. While major banks handle much more than this, there are over 3,000 banks in the country that have less than $1 billion in total assets. Although Starbucks cannot legally liquidate the money on the customers' accounts, they are not recognized as an official bank. On this note, the third largest financial group in South Korea stated that Starbucks was no longer just a coffee company, but also an unregulated bank. There are times when customers do not make use of their deposit, or they forget those deposits. The money becomes known as breakage income. Starbucks had a breakage income of $125 million, $155.9 million, and $104.6 million in 2019, 2018, and 2017 respectively. This and some factors earlier mentioned brought a bank official to the conclusion that Starbucks is a fintech company and not just a coffee company. Howard had to also cut down on the sales of breakfast sandwiches as they changed the perspective of people about the company. He went further to make some technical changes to the company, including replacing all espresso machines with a newer and better Mastrina. All outdated cash registers and computers were also changed. The technique of lean marketing was also introduced in the Toyota manufacturing process by Scott Hayden. This technique made access to ingredients and tools for output faster, thereby increasing productivity drastically. Starbucks had begun to heavily employ technology throughout social media and app development to create the image they needed to be viewed by the public. This strategy was largely successful, resulting in some campaigns that endeared the company to newer customers online. Starbucks could maximize its application because it came out well before rivals could catch on to the idea. Starbucks also had to promote the brand's philanthropic tenets, such as its commitment to improving local communities and protecting the environment. Overall, with Howard Schultz at the helm of affairs, there was an improvement in the quality of service Starbucks offered, and this paid off big for them. By 2012, Starbucks had expanded to include more than 17,600 outlets located in 39 countries across the globe, and its market capitalization had reached a value of $35.6 billion. By 2014, Starbucks had over 21,000 locations across the globe and a market valuation of $60 billion. Retirement and moving forward. On the 4th of June 2018, Howard Schultz announced that he would retire from active management of Starbucks after 37 years of service. In December of 2016, Schultz decided to step aside from his role as CEO and take on the role of executive chairman instead. Schultz stated that he was contemplating a variety of alternatives, one of which was a run for president of the United States. Myron Ullman took over as chairman of the board in June 2018, while Kevin Johnson, who had served as the company's president and chief operating officer for the 2 years prior, succeeded Howard Schultz as the CEO of the company. Following Johnson's departure from the job in March 2022, Schultz would take over as interim CEO of the company until Lakshman Narasimhan, his permanent replacement, takes Starbucks' reins. Howard will remain on the board and act as an advisor to Narasimhan. We hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, and share for more inspiring videos.